So gene synthesis has been around for a long time, since the late 70s, and traditionally it's been by taking chemically synthesized oligonucleotides and on controlled pore glass substrates. So and some of that process has been automized over the last 20 years, and stitching them together to form a gene. What's happened over the last 20 years has been a dramatic decrease in the cost of that process. So when I started grad school in 2001, it was about $12 to $16 a base pair. Today, it's about 40 cents a base pair. And a lot of that process has been automation and scale of production. But we're reaching a point where the cost of gene synthesis is approaching the cost of the precursor oligonucleotides that are required for gene synthesis. So what we've been working on over the last few years has been developing ways to use cheaper sources of oligonucleotides, namely DNA from microchips, where DNA is synthesized directly on a chip in much lower volume and therefore requires much less substrate, and so you can make things for dramatically lower costs. The limiting problem with that is that you end up with a lot of oligonucleotides, of which you only need a few to make any one gene. And so the challenge has been, how do you make genes in this very large milieu of other oligonucleotides that don't really participate in any one synthesis reaction? And so that's been a major thing that's been limiting gene synthesis from really reducing costs further. And there are whole sorts of other issues once you eliminate the DNA costs related to sequencing and reagent costs and things like that. So I think the major thing is oligonucleotide costs commercially right now, and then the second thing are all these other processes. Chip-based synthesis is basically using oligonucleotides from DNA microchips to basically use as the building blocks to build to a larger gene. The challenge with using chips has been this large complexity that you get from synthesizing individual chips. So up to millions of oligonucleotides can be made on a single chip. And you have the issue that if you want to build one gene, you only need a dozen or so oligonucleotides. And so if you want to build a large set of genes from a million oligonucleotides, it's just too complex of a mixture. So we've been working on technologies to basically isolate subpools of those of these large mixtures of oligonucleotides in order to make a single gene, and using that either by doing that right now by PCR, so PCRing only small subsets of the oligos you need for one assembly, and then removing those barcodes essentially, and then using that as a synthetic product.
All right, ready? How are DNA chips sold and purchased, and what options does Symbiosis provide for researchers?
So I think that's two questions, and we'll start with the first. So DNA microchips are made by a set of companies. So Agilent Technologies is one that we're partnered with, but we use several vendors. As you know, DNA microchips are sold commercially, usually in the form of DNA microarrays that people use for target expression. So the major players there are Agilent, Affymetrix, Nimblegen. But there's a set of even startup companies and smaller companies that also sell such products. So we have been working with a few companies, LC Biosciences, Custom Array. So it's sold by a variety of vendors. They are varying quality and availability options. For example, our working relationship with Agilent now is they provide us, we are contracted with them to buy chips from them, and they have a certain process for making oligonucleotide mixtures. But we also buy things from other vendors, such as Custom Array is another one that we're working with pretty closely now. What we want to do at Symbiosis is really try to give access to researchers the synthetic DNA products at much lower cost than are available right now to somewhat jumpstart the field in the availability of synthetic DNA, because right now we feel like we're in a little bit of a chicken and egg situation in that the demand for synthetic products is relatively low, and it would only really increase if we can really lower the cost. But without lower cost, we can't build these large-scale uses for synthetic DNA. And so part of our goal is to jumpstart that by offering low-cost gene constructs and offering them to researchers to develop the next generation of technologies that can really allow for a robust industry to provide such services, and B, enable new types of science and technology.